I am here today and will ask you to come along to talk a little bit about how you may be able to connect customers with your business. It's quite interesting. You talk about challenges, opportunities. We live in a world that is just so busy with information in our private lives, in our professional lives. It's been thrown at us online, when we walk around the streets, what we're reading, and actually it's a real challenge to get cut through as a practice to get your message out there. Actually, not even just get your message out there, connect it with customers who might want to actually work with you. I think that's a challenge in itself. And connecting with customers, I guess, is the lifeblood of any business, because whether they're your existing customers that you're already working with or whether they're potential customers, if we don't have them, we don't have a business. So I wanted to talk today about how communications plays a part in that, making that connection. And it might be part of a broad mix of tactics that you undertake. You know, you might be out there networking, you might get word of mouth recommendations, you might take your clients out for lunch, for dinner. There's be a variety of ways, I'm sure, in which you connect with existing customers and find new customers, and comms lies within that mix. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. My personal expertise lies within public relations and social media, so Will and Amy asked me if I could focus a little bit on that today and concentrate on those areas and how that work could perhaps benefit your business. Just a tiny bit about Gardiner Richardson. We are a creative communications agency, and we're based here in Newcastle, just near the Tyne Bridge. We're in Generator Studios, actually in Ryder Architects' old offices we inhabit now. We've been going for nearly 20 years, and we've got a real broad range of customers. We don't just concentrate in one area. We work with businesses large and small, and actually it's more about not size, but what do you actually kind of want to achieve, and how can we help you make an impact, or we can help you make an impact with your customers. And the studio is great. It's a lovely place to work. It's open plan, and that's kind of really purposeful for us, because we don't like, there's about 30 of us, we work in lots of different disciplines, but we don't like to put communications in boxes. We just like to think, what are we trying to achieve for a client, what impact are we trying to make, and how best to approach that. And so we might put multidisciplinary teams together to actually meet those needs. But the types of things that we do are design, so that might be creating identities for companies or rebranding them, any piece of design from brochures to posters, leaflets, public relations, which is kind of more traditionally might be events, working with the media to get messages out there, social media. We work with clients to help them plan strategy right through to creating assets and actually running their platforms for them on their behalf. We write content, so that might be for your website, for your brochure, and we design and build websites. So we do pretty much everything. In terms of our experience in your sector, in the building and architecture sector, we are currently running the membership campaign for REBA, helping them attract more members. That's particularly new qualified architects and practice managers who might be thinking about getting membership for members of the team. We've worked with REBA Enterprises and MBS here in Newcastle. With Ryder, we built their new website. We've done PR for Graydon, Sole Practitioner Beyond, County Life Homes, and we work with Kia and Metnor. So we have some understanding of the challenges that you are facing, and some understanding of the world that you inhabit. And I want to share a little bit about the work that we're doing with REBA, because I think it's really interesting that no matter how big or small, organisations kind of face the same types of challenges. So what's really interesting with REBA is we want to attract new members, and REBA at the outset, I think we're quite clear about why they thought, architects joined the institution. But we ran a workshop with people, we ran about 3 right across the country, And what architects told us was the reason that they wanted to be part of REBA was completely at odds with why REBA thought people wanted to be members. And it was really interesting that no matter how much you think that you know your customers and you want to connect with them, actually there's no account from just talking to people, talking to customers and finding out what they actually want and what they need from you. So for REBA, we took that learning from the workshops. We tried to understand what it was, what those benefit messages were in terms of being a member, and play that back out into some of the creative, and make sure that we place that creative in places that architects were going to actually see it, so make sure that we're in the right place at the right time. So these were some of the ads that we placed in on various platforms, sort of online. We ran some ads on Twitter, so actually having a REBA journal, a lot of people told us was something that was really, that they really valued out of their membership. It was quite a price-driven thing sometimes, whereas for the younger architects, the newly qualified architects, actually having access to resources, being able to continue their professional development and use those tools with what appealed to them. So it's a case of really trying to understand what it is that your audience want, need from you, and then play that back to them in a compelling way that was going to resonate with them. I mean, even these images are quite different. This was I think on LinkedIn for kind of newly qualified architects, whereas this was more for practice managers. So even the choice of imagery can connect with people and the language in which you use. So it was quite interesting exercise working with REBA, and I think that we learned a lot, and we're going to do a full campaign next year in 2018, taking what we've learned, which is another key point, actually taking what you learn from your communications and rolling that through into what you do. I think it's not having a fixed point at which you work, but actually being quite flexible about what you do, learning what works and kind of honing that. The session today I wanted to be quite practical, so that you left today with some action-orientated kind of hints and tips that you could put into practice quite immediately. I'm very conscious that actually not only in your world, actually any small business, you're very busy delivering for clients, you're on the coalface, you're chasing new business, you don't actually, I assume, so no, I don't have, even though I work for a comms agency, whatever your intention, you will have very limited time to do communications. So whatever you do, it needs to add real value for you, but for your clients, because if it doesn't, it's a totally pointless exercise, and I actually wouldn't recommend even kind of setting foot on the path with comms, because you'll just find it very, very frustrating, I think. I think great communications is about creating a story, creating comms that really connect with your customers. What does that actually mean? It's about making sure that you are giving them the right information, you are making it easy for them, you are giving them the information that they need. They don't want to have to hunt through, I don't know, stacks and stacks of kind of pages on your website to find out the information that they need. They just want it to be really simple and really straightforward. It's about ensuring that you communicate with them in the right way. So, you know, for example, we're mobile first these days, so, you know, I assume most people have got websites. Are they responsive websites? Can you scale them on a mobile? Because if you can't, you kind of probably really irritating your customer when they're looking for information about you. So it's making sure that you're reaching them in a format that they like. It might be that some of your clients actually don't like communicating digitally. A lot of people actually would find in the throwback to actually printed material. A lot of people now like to receive it because we don't receive that much nice post anymore. So actually, it's just thinking about what's the right way in which to communicate with your customers, making sure that you are in the right place to meet them. So just as you would attend in the real world a networking event where potential customers might be, it's thinking about that on and offline. So, you know, what journals, what publications do you want to be in, which forums do you want to be having a conversation on, which social platforms is it relevant to be on. So it's making sure that you're meeting them in the right place, just like you would in real life. and meeting them at the right time as well. You know, don't speak to them when they're really busy, because they're just going to switch off. You know yourself, you're busy people, and you will just dismiss automatically a lot of the information that comes to you daily. The amount of clients who say to me, like, oh, somebody's giving me an opportunity to advertise in something like, you know, the match programme. Would you think that's a good idea? Well, actually, no, because they're at the match, they're in a social sphere. It might seem like a really great deal, but actually, and you could reach lots of people, but they're not going to be any type of state of mind to take in the information you're giving them. So it's about being in the right time, and also about really understanding your audience. And I'll come on to this in more detail, because it's really key to getting communications right. So talking to the right people, depending on what you do. Is it a procurement manager you're trying to connect with, or actually is it a homeowner? It entirely depends on what type of practice you run, but kind of really understanding your customer, which sounds so obvious, but so many people overlook. Understanding your audience and your customers kind of absolutely crucial to success. So it's about the right information in the right way, in the right place, at the right time, to the right people. And if you can do all of those things right, then you're onto a good thing, I think. So what I wanted to talk about from a practical perspective was talk a little bit about just thinking about what you might want your communications to achieve, and in a few moments I want you just to kind of do a bit of an exercise, to have a bit of a think about that. I want you to talk about who your customers are, who you're talking to, what you want to say to them, when and where you want to say that. And then I was going to make some content suggestions as well, so some practical things that you could take away and do right now. So I think, you know, that question, what do you want your communications to achieve, it probably seems quite an obvious one, but there's a lot of different ways that you can frame it. So is it about being front of mind with your existing customers? Is it about them having mental availability to you? Because actually, it's a lot easier to get more work out of your existing customers than it is to go away and try and win some new business. Or is it about winning new business? Is it about having an awareness within the marketplace? They're aware of you, they understand you understand how you can meet their needs, and you're trying to drive new business. Is it that you have a specialism in a certain area and you want to shout about that? Is it about thought leadership? I think it's worth giving some thought to kind of what you want that communications to achieve. I think from a practical perspective as well, it's also about being realistic about what you can achieve. As Will said, you know, you're busy, you're delivering, you're on the coal phase. So actually, it can be extremely frustrating if you think, oh, I've got all this comms that I want to do, but actually I can't get any of it done. So actually being realistic and thinking, actually, I'm going to have a LinkedIn channel, and I'm going to publish 2 pieces a month on there, and I'm going to put them on the blog on my website. And if I do that, I'm happy, because actually my channels look fresh, I've got something to say, I have a point of view on the world. That's fine. I think it's about having a plan. I might, you know, if you were going to have a Twitter channel, okay, well, what does that look like? Well, I'm going to post 3 times a week, and I'm going to make sure that I interact with anyone who interacts with me. But if you have a plan and be realistic about that plan, then I think that kind of takes a lot of the anxiety around comms away, because it can just become another thing to do on your to-do list, really. I think being specific as well about what you want to say and do. A lot of clients we talk to, and we'll say to them, okay, so who is it that you want to engage with? And they'll say, well, anyone who wants to build a house in the UK. Right, okay, you probably need about £50 million to be able to actually communicate that message. So be quite specific about what it is. I think it's better to be specific than broad in terms of knowing your market and knowing who you want to talk to. Is it the North East? Is it broader than that? Is it a certain area of specialism that you practice in? It's just about being specific, and that will help you be focused in terms of what you want to deliver. And if you're in a practice that has more than just yourself, I think if you can recruit advocates, then that's also really helpful. They will have networks, so you know, your employees, they will have networks of their own, and you might identify people within your practice who have an aptitude for writing or have their own personal interest in social media. They're quite good at it, they're quite active. From our point of view, even as a comms office, it's something that our own communications often falls to the bottom of the list despite being a comms agency. And actually when you're trying to whip up support to get people to help you, a lot of people they're just too busy, they want to get on with delivering for clients. So I think it's not about forcing it with people who aren't interested, but actually looking at where you could create advocates who could help you with your communication strategy if needs be. So once you've kind of thought about what you want to achieve, it's a case of thinking about who you're going to be actually talking to. It's quite interesting, I work with McBryde who are a slightly bigger practice, probably have more corporate work. Their audience is often procurement, whereas when we've worked with Beyond, who tend to do either new builds or remodelling of houses, they tend to be kind of more upmarket, but it's more wealthy couples essentially who buy their services. So it's kind of knowing and understanding who those people are, who those customers are that you're trying to connect with them. Because how we would try and connect with customers for Rider would be completely different than how we would try and connect with customers for somebody like Beyond. So it's a case of kind of giving that a little bit of thought and thinking about what your customers' needs are and how you can help them. So it's not enough to kind of just say, well, we do this and we're brilliant, we're great, we can do this for you. You need to let them know and demonstrate how you can help. So you may need to think about what their needs are. So again, just an example from Beyond, they knew that their customers, if they were going through a big remodelling job, they wanted it to be as pain-free as possible. So they offered an end-to-end service, so they could help you contract the builders, the kitchen fitters, right through to the interior design at the end. They knew their market and they knew what they wanted. And they also knew that customers didn't want a load of mess and disruption or minimise it as it was going on. So those are the type of stories that we were telling for them. Those are the types of messages that we were getting out there. So it wasn't just about how great the service was that they offered, because actually saying we do a quality job and we offer great service, yeah, no shit, you really should do that. That's like an absolute minimum. So it's kind of what is it above and beyond that actually your customers need and you can give them. And you can do that through, and it's about demonstrating that, so you can do that through things like case studies. You've got any customers you work with who are happy to tell the world what a great job you've done, expert positioning pieces that you can write yourself and you can host on your own channels, and via your social media. And actually the media themselves are also always interested in case studies as well. So if you've done any great work, and you think, actually, I've read something in a journal or I've read something in a magazine that I think, we do work that's very similar to that. Well, look at the byline, who wrote that, and give them a ring. Are they interested in your story? And think about, I think, what your tone of voice will be as well. And I think a good way of looking at that option is kind of, what is your own personality and how does that permeate through your business? And actually that should be no different online or in communications. Do you want to be friendly? Do you want to be expert? Do you want to be accessible? Are you affordable? Value for money? Think about what your tone of voice will be. And often it's a bit softer online than in kind of perhaps brochures or website copy where it's a little bit more formal. But that's also something really worth thinking about. Just take out about 5 minutes now, just to do a little bit of an exercise based on some of the things that I've just talked about there, just to get you to think a little bit about who you are as an organisation, what do you do for your clients, who you do it for, and for the people you do it for, what do they need or want, so you kind of put yourself in your customer's shoes. And when you did a job for a customer, what did they get out of it, and how did they change as a result? What change did you affect in them? So just want to take 5 minutes. Then we've got pens and paper. just to have a bit of a think about those, and then it'd be good to just talk through some examples and think about how that can work in the world of comms. Just thinking and reflecting a little bit on who you are and what you do, because I think you're all unique and you all have a unique story to tell, and you might be in competition with each other in some cases, but actually you will have your own perspective and your own point of view on how you do things. And this exercise is to really kind of make you think about that a little bit, but also to think about how you might tell that story to your customers. So I don't know if we have any volunteers who might want to share what they've penned, and we can have a little discussion about how that might translate into comms.
Not directly, but we did a similar exercise in our office where we had to decide between ourselves which sort of car we
do those exercises with clients, yeah, it does. I think it helps you kind of contextualise your world.
Yeah, for those characters, you can kind of hit lots of things.
Yeah. Quite interested with that as well. If you're on a journey, some excuse the pun, but if you're on a journey from one place to another, so you might think, what sort of car am I now, and what would I like to be in kind of a few years' time?
They're extended in that, but pretty
Has anyone else got any thoughts, ideas on? I think particularly around the people that you work for and what you feel they might need from you. Go for it.
Okay, so we're maybe a little bit different other people in the room here. We're quite specific to a sector, so we're healthcare. Really.
Yeah.
So, who are we? Medical architecture. What do we do? Planning design, high quality healthcare design settings. Before, it's really for a range of people. Our client tends to be healthcare estates, so, and they're tricky in their own right, because a lot of the healthcare estates people are ex-service engineers.
Yeah.
So don't really have a big design background, so we're on the back foot almost immediately, because they're quite happy to turn up to a seminar about pipes and boilers.
Yeah.
But when it comes to design, the conversation is quite tricky.
Yeah.
We have contractors as clients.
Yeah.
With frameworks. And the people that you speak with day to day tend to be sort of clinicians, patients. That's who we're designing it for.
Yeah.
So in terms of what they want and need, a solution that will either do one of these many things, to improve the built environment, make their job easier, more effective, improve patient care and recovery, reduce revenue costs, and I you can see all that a lot. It's basically good design, but it's good to get there. And what do we get out of it? I suppose what we tend to do at the end of most projects, if we can, establish some of those metrics in terms of actually trying to get stats out of, so it tends to be sort of length of stay, reduction in meds. So there are a few things, but that's what we try to pull back in on that.
Yeah, and I think that's really important actually, if you can get, after the job's done, if you can get either data or testimonials or quotes from clients. I mean, it's interesting, your field of work, many years ago I worked for, with Dewjock Architects, who used to be down on Rosa Street, and they did a lot of clean room technology, and it wasn't my area of technical expertise at all, but I had to kind of get to grips with it. And we placed a lot of articles for them on clean room technology, and that was about understanding, as you touched on, who's commissioning the work, what were they likely to be kind of reading, or what were they consuming in terms of just, I guess, from a technical perspective, and from a trade media perspective, kind of what were they looking at, and then kind of weaving in some of those key benefit messages of, if you invest in this, this is what you'll get for your patients, for your hospital, for whatever it will be. So it was more about the benefit messaging as opposed to actually what they were delivering as architects, although that kind of played into it. So I think it's getting to the nub as well of kind of who are those people then that you're trying to speak to in terms of the commissioners of that type of work. And I think often on a lot of jobs you might be, like say, on a framework, or you might be tendering for a job, and it's kind of more about what sits around that, because your comms isn't going to necessarily influence the tender. Actually, it just puts you front of mind and adds a lot of credibility to what you're doing, because even in the world of procurement, but particularly kind of in real world, your potential customers, they will do pretty much 80% of their legwork in terms of finding out about you, online, through your website, through LinkedIn, through trade articles. They will research you and they will stalk you before they even pick the phone up to ring you. So if you're not there in that sphere, then you're not going to be kind of in their field. I appreciate it's slightly different when you're tendering for something and you're putting yourself forward for that, but there will still be some due diligence that goes on around that, and just making sure that you show up in certain professional spheres will all lend to the impression that you give as a practice. So I think that's a really interesting one, and I think that that's what I mean about being very specific and being focused and understanding who you're trying to talk to, and then working out where they are and basically reaching out to meet them in that sphere.
I think sometimes we get sort of stuck between country, because we do a lot of articles in sort of magazines that sort of our clients will read, more than what architects are reading. To be fair, I'm not too worried about being in the architect's journal.
Yeah.
One of our clients actually pick it up, but when it does come back, then it's actually tracking the stuff and actually, if you want to put yourself into designer and architect, then you still need to do them. Yeah,
totally. And there's exactly other payoffs from being being active in those spheres, like you say, being featured in trade publications for your own trade, it boosts morale within your practice, like you say, it raises awareness, it helps if you want to recruit, so there's lots of other benefits, but I think it's just prioritising when you're busy where you want to put your effort and your focus, really. Okay. So we've thought about what you want to achieve, who you might be talking to, what you might want to say, and then it's important to think about, as we've just touched on there, really where you are going to say it and when. And I'll touch a little bit here on social media. So main channels that we work with for B2B customers tend to be LinkedIn and Twitter, and I think I've included, I would also touch on Instagram because it's very visual and you work in a very visual sector. LinkedIn's got 500 million users worldwide, and 21% of them are active daily, and it's kind of, that's your channel, but you're in professional mode when you're on LinkedIn, and you're looking for informative content. And you can publish that content, you can share content from people who you respect, you can join professional groups on LinkedIn who will give you lots of information, so that's a good one to kind of be on. Twitter is experiencing quite slow growth at the moment. We do use it for business. We're just running another membership campaign actually for the North East Chamber of Commerce at the moment, and we're active on LinkedIn and Twitter for them. There's 323 million active users of Twitter daily, and 47% of them are checking in every day. And you use that channel if you just want content fast, so it's much more kind of throwaway. Then you've also got your own website, and you might have a blog section within your website where you might want to write some thought leadership pieces, you might want to write some commentary pieces. But I think it's about making your content work hard for you. So if you're going to publish, if you're going to spend the time writing something, make it work across all your channels. House it on your website, publish it on LinkedIn, link it on Twitter, and have that plan, be consistent, because you know yourselves there's nothing worse than going to somebody's page or a business's page, either their website or or their social feed, and it hasn't been active. Don't look at mine, by the way. That hasn't been active for months and months on end. It's really frustrating, and it just doesn't give the right impression. So be consistent, and my golden rule here would be: don't try and do everything, just choose 1 or 2 channels and do them well. Don't do lots of channels really badly, do 1 or 2 well. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And just be consistent and quite disciplined with yourself, and if you can rope in other people to help, then great. And build a community just like you would in your professional lives offline, you know, link with your colleagues, with your suppliers, with your partners, with people that you admire and you respect, join professional groups. Think about your brand and your brand personality and your tone of voice, which we talked about earlier, kind of what you're trying to portray there in terms of yourself and your practice. And don't just broadcast, don't just stick information out there. People often concentrate on that, but forget actually it's social media. That means being social, that means talking to people, interacting with people, engaging with people. And if you share their content, if you comment on what they're talking about, they will do the same to you. So it's not just about pushing messages out, it's about being interested in other people, just like you would be in the real world, and being interesting as a practitioner as well. And then just finally, some thoughts on content suggestions, because I think if you're starting this from scratch, often it can be a bit overwhelming. You think, okay, I've got my channel set up, what am I actually going to talk about? And there's some really simple, quick wins here. You know, you're having new business wins that you could talk about. You have planning permission granted for any of the projects you're going to be working on. Has it started on site? The build has started. Media absolutely love case studies. Case studies are total winners, but particularly if you can get artist impressions or photography. The one thing I would advise not skimping on is photography. You get a great photograph. What you do is so visual, and if you get a great photograph, you will get much more space. You will get people put video and photography online. Posts that contain these things just get far and away more interaction and engagement than those that don't. So don't skimp on the photography. Some kind of really shady image taken on an iPhone that's all shadowy. It's just, you can take great pictures on iPhones, and actually they're valid, but as long as it's just framed correctly and it's a decent image. Have you entered any awards? Have you won any awards? Can you shout about that? Have you taken on any new members of staff? Can you tell their stories? You know, what are they bringing to your practice? Do you operate in an area of expertise, like this gentleman in healthcare? Is there a specific area of that you can talk about? And as I say, you know, if there's journals or professional journals that you subscribe to, that you read, and you see a story in there that you think, actually, I'm doing something really similar, I want to shout about that, pick the phone up and call the journalist. You know, they'll only say no. That's the worst that can happen. But make sure you've got a good image that'll go with it, because that's the first thing they'll ask. Comment pieces, is something happening in the industry? Is there a discussion, debate going on online? You can often just post yourself, you can just give a point of view on it. And make sure you do that follow-up with clients. You get quotes, testimonials, you can put on your website and your marketing materials, you can put them online, collect data at the end of a job, you know, what's actually, what's the outcome for the client? Was it a positive one? So there's lots and lots that you can do quite quickly, and obviously there's also other people's content that you can share, people that you may admire or follow yourselves. But I wouldn't advocate filling up an online feed just with other people's content. I think it's great to actually, if you can, originate your own content and just have a point of view on the world that reflects your practice and your own sort of attitude. And that's it. It's a bit whistle stop, and hopefully it's given you some practical guidelines. And I've got a few sheets somewhere that you can just pick up at the end with some just top tips on to take away. I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has them. Yeah.
Would you advocate, so to speak, from a person within practice or from practice?
I'd say from the practice, but just make sure that if you've got several people who are populating it, that you've got a consistent tone of voice.
Yeah.
I mean, in our business, we have our business feed, and then we have 3 directors, and 2 of them aren't that interested in social, so they don't do it. One of them loves social, so he's got his own feed, and he talks a lot about what he's doing, and he links into our company page. So there's room for both, but I would just say if you are having a company one with several people feeding in, just make sure you've got an agreement about what your tone of voice is, to be consistent.
I just wanted to just a couple of sort of example things really rather than questions.
Yeah.
I'm actually from more like a medium-sized practice rather than a smaller one, but just share a couple of experiences on PR and communications. One is, I think that we've always tried to get stories in the local press as much as possible, because a lot of our procurers of our work are local business people, and I think you have to get over the fact that it actually might be a picture of a child in a hard hat against your story rather than your own building. Yeah. I think as architects we're incredibly proud of our buildings, but the press aren't necessarily interested in that. So I think you have to sort of tune your brain into tune yourself slightly differently when you're dealing with the press, and sort of if you keep trying to push your building and how beautiful it is, they're not necessarily to read that story. You have to put a different
totally. And that's exactly that, is speaking to the need, and what was the building there to serve. So they'd rather tell the story of what the people it was there to serve than the actual story.
Your name may get attached to the story, and sometimes it actually isn't. And
I think you're totally right. And actually, don't be dismayed or put off by that, because you can kind of chuck your toys out of the pram sometimes with a journalist. But actually, next time they will cover the story.
They often need a story.
Yeah.
You're doing their work for them by providing them with something, so they're often really grateful for something they can put in their pages.
Yeah, it's so true, and I think in the North, actually all local newsrooms, their resources are shrinking away to nothing. So they will, you're right, they're looking for story. What they're looking for, I mean, it's interesting, Trinity Mirror, who own the Journal, they have a digital first newsroom. So their number one thing that they want is video content. That is what they want. So if you could supply a walkthrough of a building, and you may have people in on it, any type of video, and actually you could just do it on your iPhone. It's interesting, we've just done a recruitment story, an expansion story for an IT company who just moved into our building, and we've done just that. We've done a 360 degree, we've sent an image of their MD, we've sent a 360 of their new office, and we've sent the story, and they've got a full page in the business section for it. So, but a big bit of that page is the photograph of the individual. It's about making the story human.
The other thing I just wanted to share is we did a rebranding exercise probably about 2 years ago now, and as a result, as part of that, somebody interviewed all of our clients as well as interviewed all the staff in our practice. And it was really interesting to ask them what they value about what we do. And it was actually a mismatch between what the architects and the technicians in our practice valued themselves about what we do and what they thought our clients valued and what our clients valued. And when we presented a sort of revised branding and revised website to our staff, some of them felt a little bit uncomfortable because it felt that it didn't necessarily. They loved the fact that they designed the most beautiful east detail, and that junction of that bit of timber against that bit of fascia is just spot on. But our clients, whilst they do benefit from that, they don't recognise that as a benefit. Yeah. They recognise other things as a benefit, like doing things on time, sticking to the programme, helping them understand the process, all of those sort of things. Yeah. So we tell them to do it. Anyway, but it was a really interesting process to kind of have to not necessarily present what you value, but what your clients value.
I think that's the key thing. We're a really audience-centric agency, and we always are thinking about kind of not what, because often we'll get clients who come to us and want to do this and that and the other in terms of comms, and I said, well, that's great, you want to do that. What do your customers want to hear from you? It's actually not about you, it's about your customers, and that's why it's so important that you do take that time. And if you can chat to your customers, you know, you can do, it's not always appropriate, but you know, SurveyMonkey is a free platform. You can populate with questions and you can send it out to your customers, or you can just say, if you've got good relationships with them, can I take you out for coffee and just have a chat about, you know, why you used us and, you know, what was important. And I think people can get really kind of excited about the tactical bit at the end, but actually it's much more important that you do that journey at the start to understand your customers and what you want to say to them before you actually get to saying it. Questions?